concerning the misuse of alcohol and the 5 DOT prohibited drug classes, as well as associated paraphernalia. You will learn the signs and symptoms of probable prohibited drug use and probable alcohol misuse. We will discuss the reasonable suspicion interview and the testing referral processes, and we will address your agency's specific protocols and procedures concerning reasonable suspicion testing. This training video, when used as instructed and in conjunction with the workbook, will provide supervisors with the training necessary to make reasonable suspicion drug and alcohol testing referrals in accordance with regulations of the Federal Transit Administration. Supervisor reasonable suspicion training does not carry over from previous FTA-covered employers. Your current employer must provide you with the required supervisor training before you can refer an employee for testing in your current transit system. For the purposes of this training, the role of the supervisor applies to any company official who has been trained appropriately to recognize the signs and symptoms of probable prohibited drug use and alcohol misuse. The person's official job title is not relevant. As a transit supervisor, you are the eyes and ears of your transit organization. You communicate and interact often with safety-sensitive employees, such as operators, dispatchers, and mechanics. This frequent interaction should enable you to recognize changes in a safety-sensitive employee's appearance, behavior, speech, and body odor. Changes that may be due to the use of prohibited drugs or the misuse of alcohol and could be cause for a referral for drug or alcohol testing. A referral for reasonable suspicion testing must be done using specific and contemporaneous observations concerning an employee's speech, behavior, and/or body odor. Specific observations are those in which you can identify specifically what you have observed. The employee has an odor of alcohol in his breath, or his eyes appear dilated, or his speech is slurred. Contemporaneous observation is seeing behavior that is occurring at that time. An observation made a week ago or even the previous day does not qualify as contemporaneous. A supervisor does not need proof of an employee's use of prohibited substances or alcohol misuse. Only reasonable suspicion is required based on current observations concerning an employee's appearance, behavior, speech, and body odor. Supervisors cannot base testing referrals on hearsay, gossip, or rumor, or observations made by a third party, such as another employee or a transit passenger. However, when a supervisor learns of observations made by a third party, he or she should investigate the claims by conducting an informal interview with the employee. We'll explain the interview process in greater detail later in today's training. A supervisor is not expected to identify the specific drug of the substance abuser or to determine if an observed behavior is specific to one drug or another, but he or she should have basic knowledge of the 5 DOT prohibited drugs, the drug paraphernalia associated with each drug, and the effects those drugs have on the user. Let's begin by identifying the 5 prohibited drug classes. The illegal use of those drugs is prohibited at all times. Amphetamines, cocaine, marijuana, opiates, and phencyclidine, or PCP. Here's an overview of each prohibited drug. Amphetamines and the subclass methamphetamine are central nervous system stimulants. They can be used medically to treat narcolepsy, depression, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. An example of a drug prescribed for these conditions is Adderall. An amphetamine user may exhibit a variety of signs and symptoms including dilated pupils, rapid speech, lack of coordination, hyperactivity, and paranoia. Other signs include heightened aggression, profuse sweating, irritability, and repetitive behaviors. Amphetamines are available in a variety of forms, including pills, powder, and a clear rock form, commonly known as crystal meth. Amphetamine-associated paraphernalia includes metal or glass pipes for smoking, cut straws or rolled dollar bills for snorting, or unmarked pill bottles that contain illegally obtained pills. In October 2010, the U.S. Department of Transportation regulated employers began testing for MDMA, commonly known as ecstasy, as part of the amphetamines drug class. MDMA is both a central nervous system stimulant and a psychoactive drug. It is an illegally manufactured variation of mescaline and amphetamine. Users claim that it produces profoundly positive feelings, empathy for others, elimination of anxiety, and extreme relaxation, thus earning MDMA the nickname the hug drug. MDMA is also said to suppress the need to eat, drink, or sleep, and for that reason, those who need to stay alert for long periods of time may abuse it. MDMA is taken orally, usually in tablet or capsule form, with tablets often stamped with icons or logos. When used alone, MDMA is dangerous, and is even more dangerous when used in combination with other substances, since the physical and psychological effects are difficult to predict. Cocaine is also a central nervous system stimulant. It is derived from the cocoa plant and is available in powder or rock form, called crack cocaine. Cocaine is the most potent stimulant of natural origin and is one of the oldest identified drugs. It is not used medically because of its high potential for abuse and addiction. It can be snorted, smoked, or injected. A person under the influence of cocaine may exhibit hyperactivity, rapid speech, jittery movements, shaking hands, or fidgeting. He may have a runny or red nose or dilated pupils and exhibit wide mood swings and short bursts of energy, followed by periods of lethargy. Paraphernalia associated with cocaine use includes razor blades used to cut powdered cocaine, a cut straw or rolled dollar bill used to snort cocaine, and metal, glass, or makeshift pipes used to smoke cocaine in rock form. Crushed soda cans are also among the items used to smoke crack cocaine. Marijuana is the most widely used illegal drug today. It consists of the leaves and flowering buds of Cannabis sativa, the hemp plant. The active ingredient in marijuana is THC, a central nervous system depressant. Marijuana is most commonly smoked, but it also can be ingested in baked goods or brewed as a tea. Although marijuana is currently being explored as an herbal therapy for glaucoma, nausea, and pain, safety-sensitive employees are prohibited from consuming marijuana in any form. A marijuana user may exhibit the following signs and symptoms: lethargy, glazed eyes, relaxed eyelids, a pungent odor on body or clothes, a relaxed or mellow mood, bloodshot eyes, decreased coordination, short-term memory loss, and difficulty concentrating. To smoke marijuana, users may possess rolling papers or hollowed-out cigars and pipes or bongs made of glass, metal, or readily available items such as aluminum foil and even apples. Opiates are central nervous system depressants and generally are prescribed for their pain-relieving properties. Prescription opiate abuse is on the rise. Safety-sensitive employees who consume opiate pain relievers should be able to provide a legitimate medical explanation as well as a legal prescription to the medical review officer following a urine drug test. Heroin is an illegal form of opiate. It most often is injected, but it can also be snorted and smoked. It is available as a white powder that is snorted or melted into liquid form for injection. Black tar heroin is a sticky, tar-like substance that can range in color from light brown to dark black and can be smoked by heating it on aluminum foil and inhaling the vapors through a tube or by dissolving and injecting. Signs and symptoms of an opiate user include red or bloodshot eyes, low, raspy speech, scratching or rubbing of the neck, face, or arms, lethargy, despondent behavior, lack of coordination, persistent anxiety, and memory difficulties. An opiate user also may exhibit injection marks on his arms, legs, or feet. The paraphernalia associated with opiate use includes hypodermic needles used for injection, cut straws or rolled dollar bills used to snort powder, and unmarked prescription bottles that contain illegally obtained opiate pills. Phencyclidine, better known as PCP, is a strong psychoactive drug whose use is rare. It comes in a variety of forms, including liquid and pills. Users may exhibit extremely aggressive or even violent behavior and feelings of invincibility, as well as dilated pupils, sweating, dry mouth, and extreme mood swings. The effects of this drug generally are unpredictable. The drug can be in the form of a liquid, pills, or white powder. One method of PCP use includes dipping a cigarette or marijuana joint into the liquid form of PCP, referred to as lacing. In addition to the specific signs and symptoms of prohibited drug use, there are some performance indicators that are common to substance abusers. These indicators alone are not cause for testing. However, when combined with the other contemporaneous signs and symptoms, they can be used as part of the testing determination process. These indicators include frequent absence from or late arrival to work, particularly following paydays, frequent visitation by non-employees during working hours, extended lunch breaks, and frequently leaving the workstation. Supervisors should be prepared to react anytime reasonable suspicion of prohibited drug use exists. Although alcohol is a legal substance, a safety-sensitive employee who reports for duty under the influence of alcohol causes a serious safety risk to himself, his fellow employees, and, most importantly, the traveling public. FTA-covered employees can be tested for alcohol misuse just before, during, or just after the performance of safety-sensitive duties. Alcohol consumption can greatly impair driving ability, slow mental, sensory, and psychomotor functions, and reduce coordination and reflex action. It can also impair vision, judgment, and concentration, and lower inhibitions. All of these effects are extremely dangerous, particularly when a safety-sensitive employee is experiencing them. Studies conducted by the National Institutes of Health revealed that alcohol is involved in 40% of all traffic deaths. The RAND Center for Health and Safety in the Workplace found that heavy drinkers had a 30% increase in risk for filing a workers' compensation claim. Heavy drinkers also have a greater risk of liver disease, heart disease, sleep disorders, depression, stroke, bleeding from the stomach, and several types of cancer. They may have problems managing diabetes, high blood pressure, and other conditions as well. A 2006 study revealed that 15% of on-the-job fatalities involve alcohol. According to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, alcohol is a factor in approximately 60% of fatal burn injuries, 50% of severe trauma injuries, and 40% of fatal falls. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that there are approximately 79,000 deaths attributable to excessive alcohol use each year in the United States. This makes excessive alcohol use the third leading lifestyle-related cause of death for the nation. Additionally, excessive alcohol use is responsible for 2.3 million years of potential life lost annually, or an average of about 30 years of potential life lost for each death. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, and it decreases neuronal activity. This is the same effect that occurs with other brain depressants, such as sleep-promoting medications and anti-anxiety medications. Let's take a look at how the brain is affected by alcohol consumption using the industry-standard blood-breath alcohol concentration, or BAC levels. This is the metric of intoxication used by law enforcement and DOT breath alcohol testing technicians. At BAC 0.02 to 0.04, cognitive functions begin to be affected. Most individuals are unaware of their impairment at these low levels. A safety-sensitive employee would be in violation of the FTA alcohol misuse prohibition at this level of intoxication. At BAC 0.04 to 0.06, sensory functions are affected, and auditory and visual acuity are decreased, as is peripheral vision. At BAC 0.08 to 0.10 BAC, speech and fine motor skills are impaired, as is eye-hand coordination. This level of BAC is over the legal limit in all 50 states. At BAC of 0.10 to 0.25, gross motor skills are impaired, as are head and torso movements and spatial relationships. At this level of intoxication, one would have difficulty maintaining balance or walking a straight line. At BAC 0.25 to 0.35, the level of alcohol concentration in the body is dangerously high. An individual may experience vertigo, nausea, and vomiting at this level. At BAC of over 0.35, the effect can be deadly. Alcohol depresses nerves that control involuntary actions such as breathing and the gag reflex, which prevents choking. If an unconscious drinker should vomit, the danger of death by asphyxiation exists. A BAC of 0.02 to 0.039 would require an employee to be removed from safety-sensitive duty for a period of at least 8 hours or until test results fall below 0.02. A BAC of 0.04 or greater would require removal from safety-sensitive duties and a referral to a substance abuse professional for evaluation and treatment. Some employers may terminate employment based on this result. It's important to realize that the body metabolizes alcohol at the rate of about 1 drink per hour. Therefore, drinking black coffee to sober up or trying to sleep it off will not work. Abstaining from additional alcohol consumption and allowing the body time to metabolize the alcohol is the only way to become sober again. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, approximately 14.1 million Americans currently suffer from alcohol dependency or alcoholism. Most adults have consumed alcohol or have been around others that have consumed alcohol and may feel that it would be easy to identify an employee who is under the influence of alcohol. However, an employee who has consumed alcohol before reporting for duty or is consuming alcohol while on duty likely will make every attempt to cover up his or her alcohol misuse. Supervisors should keep in mind that alcohol can be easily concealed in any kind of container, such as a soda can, a disposable cup, or a concealed flask. FTA regulations prohibit the use of alcohol within 4 hours of the performance of safety-sensitive duty and while on call or on standby for duty. Supervisors can refer an employee for alcohol testing just before, during, or just after the performance of safety-sensitive duties. Alcohol prohibition includes alcohol in all forms, isopropyl alcohol, ethyl alcohol, and methyl, butyl, and other low molecular weight alcohols. Medications, candy, or mints that contain alcohol are also prohibited. Some products that are readily available on the market may be deceptive. For instance, Sparks is a product made by the Miller Brewing Company that is marketed as an energy beer. It contains alcohol. Sparks packaging closely resembles other energy drinks such as Red Bull. Supervisors also should be aware that people who are alcohol dependent may ingest other non-beverage products that contain alcohol in order to sustain themselves throughout the workday. Listerine mouthwash contains 26.9% alcohol, equivalent to 54 proof. Other non-beverage alcohol items that have been known to be consumed include hairspray, cough and cold remedies such as NyQuil, and men's aftershave. Observation of an employee under the influence of alcohol may reveal an odor of alcohol on the employee's breath or body, a lack of coordination, an inability to remain focused on tasks or to carry on a logical conversation, slurred speech, glazed eyes, diminished motor skills, and trembling hands. Other signs and symptoms include bloodshot eyes, relaxed facial muscles, and an inability to track an object with the eyes. The effects of alcohol consumption on individual personalities can vary. Some people become jovial, self-confident, and more social. Others become bitter, irritable, and argumentative. In fact, a change in behavior may be more revealing than the actual behavior itself. For example, a normally quiet employee who becomes loud and boisterous, or an outgoing and good-humored employee who suddenly becomes sullen and argumentative. As a supervisor, if you suspect an employee of alcohol misuse in the workplace, you must react immediately. Identify the prohibited substances, their associated paraphernalia, and the signs and symptoms of both probable prohibited drug use and probable alcohol misuse. Let's discuss the actions that supervisors must take to make a referral for testing. FTA regulations require only one trained supervisor to make a referral for reasonable suspicion testing, so it is not necessary to get a second opinion. If you are the only trained supervisor on duty at the time of a reasonable suspicion scenario, you must proceed with the referral process. It is your responsibility to react based on your observations at that time. You must not wait until another supervisor is available. Also, it is important to understand that your employer cannot require that more than one supervisor is needed to make a referral for reasonable suspicion testing. This contradicts the FTA regulations. Approaching an employee whom you suspect is using prohibited drugs or alcohol can be an intimidating task. An employee under suspicion should always be approached in a respectful and discreet manner. The employee should be removed from common areas and interviewed behind closed doors. Here are some guidelines for the referral process. Conduct a face-to-face informal interview. Describe your observations to the employee. Allow him or her the opportunity to respond, but do not be manipulated into ignoring your observations. If the employee offers a plausible explanation for the behavior, you may consider it. However, you should explain that reasonable suspicion testing is used to rule out the possibility that prohibited drugs or alcohol misuse are the cause for the observations you have made. An employee who is not using prohibited drugs or misusing alcohol most likely will welcome the opportunity to prove this. Anticipate that the employee may react defensively. A reasonable suspicion interview can cause an employee who is using drugs or misusing alcohol to feel threatened, trapped, or persecuted, and he or she may react in an aggressive manner. As a supervisor, you must remain calm and in control of the situation. Speak using a calm tone of voice and display body language that is non-confrontational. Make mental notes of your observations. Use the interview process as an opportunity to note the employee's appearance, behavior, and speech, as well as any odors coming from his or her body or clothing. Look for symptoms such as dilated or constricted pupils, slurred speech, disorientation, confusion, trembling hands, etc. These observations will need to be documented later. At the close of the interview, notify the employee of your decision to refer him or her for a reasonable suspicion drug or alcohol test. Once the employee has been notified that testing is required, the testing must take place promptly, and the referred employee should be supervised at all times. If the referred employee asks for a third party to be present during testing, such as union or legal representation, the supervisor should honor his or her request but must continue the testing process without delay. If an employee refuses to be tested, explain that the consequences are the same as if he or she had tested positive on the drug or alcohol test. Document the interview process, including the signs and symptoms observed and the employee's conduct as required. If the employee is referred for alcohol testing, you must also document any delays in testing after the first 2 hours and cease all attempts to conduct alcohol tests after 8 hours of the initial referral. FTA requires that reasonable suspicion event documentation remain on file with your employer for a period of at least 2 years. Reasonable suspicion testing is the most underutilized test type in the industry, despite supervisor training requirements. Researchers believe that this is due, in part, to the lack of support from upper-level management and the inaccurate belief among supervisors that they must have substantial proof of prohibited drug use or alcohol misuse before they can refer an employee for testing. Transit agency administrators must support supervisors in their decision to refer an employee for testing, regardless of the outcome of drug or alcohol test results. Supervisors should be empowered to conduct reasonable suspicion testing anytime they observe specific, contemporaneous signs and symptoms of probable prohibited drug use or probable alcohol misuse, as they have been trained to do. Only reasonable suspicion is required, not proof. Furthermore, supervisors should not fear retaliation or be concerned with potential discrimination lawsuits or union grievances. Safety-sensitive employees are subject to reasonable suspicion testing when referred by a trained supervisor as required by FTA regulations. It is the supervisor's responsibility to ensure the safety of other employees and the traveling public, and so he or she must never hesitate to react when faced with reasonable suspicion of drug or alcohol use in the workplace. Congratulations! As a participant in today's training program, you have been provided the tools, knowledge, and training necessary to make reasonable suspicion testing referrals. You have been charged with a responsibility that must not be taken lightly. You must remain keenly aware of the potential that exists for employees to use prohibited drugs or to misuse alcohol. Trust your instincts, use your knowledge and training, and help keep us safe. Here are some final encouraging factors that may help to empower you in your new role. An employee who uses prohibited drugs or is misusing alcohol is a disruption to the workplace. The employee's behavior will foster poor morale and make everyone's job more difficult. A supervisor who refers a substance abuser for testing potentially has saved lives, including the referred employee's life. Revealing an employee's substance abuse is often the first step in the employee's recovery. For every substance abuser in the workplace, there likely are family members at home who are suffering. Bringing an employee's addiction to light helps them and helps the people who love them. Remember, As a trained supervisor, you have a responsibility to react when you have reasonable suspicion of prohibited drug use or alcohol misuse. We are counting on you.